Hey there, welcome to the Starlight Giant's home. So there's a bit of a story here. Due to radiation or FEV mutation, an individual in the Commonwealth has grown very large, and he's had to scrap himself together the closest thing to a house that he can, right? So, another little bit of story for it. All the surrounding settlers and villagers and people of the Commonwealth have put all of these signs up forbidding people from going near him because they're scared of him, right? He's huge. But in reality, he's just a poor little softy trying to scrape a living together, right? You can see a couple more of these signs over here. It's a little more intense right in this area because this is the only way in or out unless you come in through the craggy rocks in that direction, right? So, a couple challenges here. First off, there is a single settler that I've made like 20 feet tall, and that has posed a lot of issues. His pathing is really wonky because he's so big. He kind of glitches all over the place. Sometimes he works perfectly, but who knows if that's going to be the case during this video. Another thing, whenever you have an NPC that's that big, they cannot interact with objects correctly because they will shrink down to the normal size, like the normal human size, while they're interacting with that object. So if I want my settlement here to be immersive, I can't have him assigned to defending, I can't have him assigned to farming, I can't have any chairs sitting around that he can come sit in because he shrinks down to a normal size, and then when he stops, he grows really large again, which just looks silly. Okay? So that posed an interesting challenge. And, coinciding with the fact that I didn't want any other humans living here, I had to do a couple of weird things. So, for defense, I've got this single little turret here, giving like 2 or 3 passive defense, which is just enough for this one guy. As far as food goes, I'm using unlocked settlement objects, and they have this little NPC ghoul here, who is completely friendly, but he adds 3 passive food to the settlement, which works, right? So I imagine this little guy who I've dubbed Bubbles, the feral ghoul, I imagine Bubbles is the giant's friend, right? He's the only other living human-ish person around. He probably talks his head off, right? Since we're right here, we'll check out his farm before we look at the house a whole lot. So this guy, he's a big gentle giant. He takes care of all these sweet rad stags and this Brahmin. Just a big old sweet boy with his deer and cow, right? Now for the bed, so that the giant doesn't just sit and bitch all day, there is a bed for him. In my headcanon, I say that that's Bubbles' bed. There is a little bit of food there, but the giant never really comes and messes with it. Maybe he just can't get in here, so, whatever. Then we do have this little fire area. It's just a scaled up fire with a scaled up cooking station and a log turned over on its side, or a stump, I suppose. Now this skeleton here does look a little foreboding, but I like to imagine that these skeletons were here when the giant moved in, right? And he talks to it, right? It's his other friend. Just like Bubbles, this guy doesn't talk to him, but he also doesn't make a whole lot of weird noises and screeches. So, let's check out the house. Using place everywhere and unlock settlement objects, we've got a variety of stuff here. Obviously for the back wall we're using the drive-in screen. Then we've got a bunch of tall walls that I've scaled up. We've got train car pieces, we've got car pieces, we've got some airplane metal, etc. A lot of cloth, a lot of tarp.
You see a lot of folks at their worst in my line of work. Hard to not let it get to you sometimes.
Yep. So, another interesting challenge was lighting. You see, like here, I do have a couple of candles, but I definitely didn't want any small light bulbs. Like this guy's huge. He he can't mess with tiny little lights. So, in lieu of that, he just rips these freaking telephone poles out of the ground, places them where he wants them, and then wires them up. He must have nimble fingers, but you know, wire is a lot harder to break than a light bulb. So, let's go inside. I don't know where the giant is right now, actually. So, with any settlement that has like a specific weird purpose like this, like a weird NPC it's based around or something, you always have to have a place for them to sleep, a place for them to eat, a place for them to store their stuff, and of course a source of their food. So we saw the source of their food outside. Now we've got where they eat and how they cook it. Just got a big, huge table. That's like, I think that's a piece of a roof there as his tabletop, just stacked on some garbage. Then he's got a shack walkway as a chair. He's drinking out of a ceramic pot. Beautiful. I've got a slightly scaled up super mutant cauldron here. It just worked, right? Then for his storage, I'm pretty proud of this. If this guy's got anything that he wants to, you know, keep track of, he can't just stick it in a cupboard. Found these dumpsters. Dumpsters work. I've just got them stacked up on top of these beams. Looks pretty nifty. And he can reach up there just fine. Not that he actually does interact with it, but if he's in here, he reaches it just fine. I do have this small dryer, which I imagine is like it's like shoebox size for this dude. He probably keeps his nail polish and jewelry in there. I'm not sure. We've got his shelves here. It's kind of dark. I'll put my light on. It is just highway rails bolted to the wall. So he's got some Brahmin in here. Maybe he's curing them for jerky. Maybe he's about to come in here and cook them up. And he's also just got some other sizable storage options here. Then over in the middle of the wall we have his shrine to this giant Grognak's axe. I don't imagine he's crafty enough to have made this. I don't know where he found it. It was a hassle to get it up there at this size. I couldn't scale it up. In the settlement menu I had to scale it up while it was laying on the ground, pick it up, place it on a weapon rack. And next is his bed. So I didn't want him sleeping on the floor. That seemed like a cop-out, so I put him on this double boat from Swan's Pond. He's got a big, huge, handmade straw pillow, a rug for a blanket, even though it probably doesn't cover his whole body, and the boat. And, of course, he's got some cages, because this guy's probably eating a lot. He's huge. He's got to ingest a lot of calories, so not only does he farm and have livestock, he's probably got to catch some animals as well. Just as a, I'm no clipping right now, so I look weird, but just as a size reference, here's me. Here's my height. Alright, let's see if we can go find this guy. So, I did try to block off any way for him to get out except for one, which is over at the entrance that direction, right? Oh, there he is. Okay, so I was about to say, he can get out through this hill, technically, and it looked like he did. He was out wandering. So there's our giant. He's currently wearing Grognak's costume, which looks a little goofball-y, but it works.
Hey, easy living. this ain't.
It's one of the only outfits
The
that
detective's life
can
isn't
be
an easy
scaled up
one,
and not
but
look
it
stupid.
rarely
These
lacks
guys
for
need to shut
excitement.
up. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure why, but he really likes to come stand over in this area over here. I might end up making a fence along the rocks just to keep him in there, because I don't want him to get stuck out here, because his pathing is really weird.
Can't remember the last time I had clean fingernails.
Yeah, well, sorry. But yeah, that's essentially it. He's just off on a hunt, I suppose. I'm thinking about doing some more settlements in this vein, not for giant people, but more like I pick a weird group, maybe a bunch of super mutants, or a bunch of ghouls, or synths, or maybe a bunch of feral ghouls like old Bubbles here, and I make a settlement for them, right? I've kind of been doing this playthrough like my character is this builder, like a fixer type of character. My Red Rocket station is basically a mechanic shop, and so like in my head canon, she's going around and she's helping all these disenfranchised weirdos have a place to live, right? Alright. Thanks for watching. I hope this was entertaining in some sort of way. If not, you know, sorry about it. Thanks.